markup cost. Oh,
I started recording and.
okay, so you have one. Yeah, we could just keep one physical copy for use and then use digital for people who want to have another copy to read over. You had a question, Colleen?
Well, just based on my experience, I think it depends on the person and also on a case by case basis is what it is. And the clerk would almost always have a paper copy that they're taking notes on, right? So that's seems to be the best choice of a one for the master noted up copy. And other people, like I think different people have different preferences, so I don't know. The old, even when we had the notebooks, I think ours were purple.
Yeah.
I never used mine, so it was kind of a waste.
Marie, do you have a comment?
I'm good either way, as long as I don't have to cart my own laptop around.
Yeah. Or possibly some hybrid.
It might be nice to have whoever is chair and taking notes on theirs as well as the PLUC clerk to have two copies.
Right. I mean, that's a good idea.
Yes.
And anybody, I guess, who wanted to take notes could make copies at home to bring.
I would say just do copies as needed and then you can leave it. And if somebody wants a physical copy, we can just provide one for them. And if not, then we can just bring in digital or whatever.
Okay.
If we have a copy on our computer, we can print one at home, or what we want. Because I'm with Ryan. I mean, I always used to make notes on this stuff too, but I see where it shouldn't be a big waste of paper. It's not good.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess for some things like reading through the pending minutes and the building permit report, I mean, those we could continue just to provide anything that's short like that. But I'm just thinking of long-term documents and say when we're writing the general plan and that kind of thing, we need a way to organize, the documents. So, okay.
Sounds good. Is that everything under the procedural matters? Is that 3 different line items or is that just all kinds of referring to that?
Well, the other one is, since we later have an agenda item about bringing ordinance 85-3 now into compliance with the subdivision ordinance. If we're holding a public hearing, it's an opportunity if there was anything else in 85-3 that you've talked about or thought about that should be brought under consideration. It's a separate agenda item. So let's.
Go ahead, Colleen.
I had been keeping a little list of tweaks and corrections that needed to be done.
Yeah.
But when I looked for it this week, I realized we had done all those the last time we amended it. So I don't have any in terms of BPA that I have that haven't been.
I may have had a note or two, but I do not have those notes with me. So.
Right. Well, that's something that you could think about, over the next month or two. And
yeah, this isn't due at a particular point in time, so we can just do it at pretty much at our leisure, correct?
Well,
or is there a
right, I don't know. I mean, we probably don't want to wait too long just to bring the ordinance into compliance, but
we don't necessarily need to approve it tonight.
No, we don't.
That would take a
because we'd have to have a public hearing anyway, so something to consider. And then I just had the other there in case you or anybody had something to bring up.
Yeah.
George, I have a question.
Yep. Go ahead, Ryan Anderson.
Thank you. Would it be possible, do you think, Faylene, to get a Google Doc out or in some way get a running list? Dorje has some, Colleen has some. I think I have some in notes so that we could have those preliminary to our next meeting, so that we could be thinking about that ahead of time?
Okay, so if anyone has any, ideas or suggestions, I mean, just to even bring up for discussion, send them to me and I'll send out a master list to everyone before next meeting.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Anything else under reports that we need to go over?
I don't have anything.
Okay, with that finished up, we will now move on to new business, item number 5. Discussion and possible action regarding appointing of the PLUC chair. So, I think Ryan Anderson is currently our chair and I'm operating as co-chair. I think or vice chair. We were talking about moving to co-chair and co-chair. So I think that's where we were at.
Wasn't, never mind. I thought that Jeff was like a co with you or something.
No,
No, okay.
So I think we are just looking for a motion. I believe I'm looking for a motion to appoint the PLUC chair.
I'm confused. Are you doing a vice chair or a co-chair? Or
Ryan,
both, or are we voting?
So it was originally, or when we first started, it was originally that Ryan Anderson was the chair and I was put as vice chair. We may change
Yeah, that's the traditional way, yeah.
the language may be changed to be co-chair for both of us so that it's less.
What does that mean in actuality? Does that mean you both have to do every agenda, or? I'm not understanding why we need a co-chair and not just a vice chair, to be honest.
Go ahead, Ryan Anderson.
Thank you, Dorje. The co-chair idea, which I've done in the past as co-presidencies with union work, is a shared responsibility, so that the chair isn't responsible for all of it, and that the responsibilities not only are divided, but also if one person is not able to or would prefer to defer for a meeting, that responsibility, the other would take that responsibility on. It's more of a division of labor, and making sure that everything is covered between two. So it's just a change in the way of operating, and it can work well if both people are amenable to it, especially if there are no ego things involved. And Dorje and I have talked about that, and both of us are amenable to it. It would not change the look of the meetings that much. Dorje's been taking the responsibility on while I was traveling and unable to Zoom in from South America, and Dorje may at some point be doing the same. So this would be a way of handling that. And also, I'm not getting any younger, and although I'm able to do a lot of this right now, I welcome youth in our valley and in shared responsibilities. So that's the idea behind it, if that helps, Marie.
Yeah, if it's fine with you, it's fine with me. I make a motion to have RJ and Ryan be co-chairs for 2025.
We have a motion and we have a second. Let's do a roll call vote. Marie,
Yes,
Janie,
I,
Brian,
Aye.
George, aye. The motion passes. We will now move on to new business item 6, discussion regarding revisions to ordinance 85-3 to bring it into compliance with the amended subdivision ordinance approved by the town council at its November 20th, 2024 meeting. So we did just have the changes to the subdivision ordinance required by Utah. So now we just need to go back through 85-3 and bring it into compliance. Essentially change any language that needs to be changed to match the other ordinance. This will also be, as stated earlier, a good opportunity to provide any other changes that we want to put into 85-3. Do we have any comments as of right now? Go ahead.
That, the first copy that you have, that is a copy of an email. Says round cube on the right-hand side at the top. That was a summary of the minutes from our November 2024 meeting. When, the planning commission went through the ordinances, and there were 2 items that were flagged as needing attention in 85-3. And on that list, towards the bottom of the page, the one that says page 34, comment number 45, we agreed, or you agreed, that that must need an amendment. And then the last item there also was flagged as needing an amendment if it was retained. So on the next 4 pages, what I did was that first item 34 was in chapter 11.6 of the subdivision ordinance. So it's on that first page there. No, it's actually 11.5.2 at the top of the page. And you can see the comments there over to the side. Just for item C, you need to look at the land use authority, which is on the next page. The pages from 85-3 that details who's the land use authority and appeal authorities for different things. So we need to bring that into alliance, I guess. And then the last 2 documents are doing the same thing for that second. If that makes sense.
hello?
So, although it's possible that doesn't seem to match up to me.
So, clarification. Essentially, the issue right now is that the town council would be signing something of this nature rather than the planning and land use commission.
All right, I don't know, maybe whether I'm not.
I'm trying to find the exact.
I thought I had the right pages. Let me look over here. It doesn't look like I see anything that matches up there.
Would we just need to add it? Because this is saying it conflicts, but does it actually conflict?
I don't know. I do have a full copy of that section, and maybe we need to look at it and see whether
Would it be possible to put that up on the screen? I'm
Yeah.
having a difficult time shifting between these documents.
Right, and I'm looking for it here. Okay. Can you see it on your screens, or do I need to share it with you guys?
You're gonna need to share.
It shows up on our screen, but I need to,
Do you have sharing turned on?
Go to Zoom.
You'll be in Zoom.
okay. Go to Zoom and share.
Then bottom middle. Oh,
Can you see it now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so. Sorry, bouncing all over right there.
What is the conflict?
Well, I'm not sure.
Which item are you talking about?
11.5.2, number C. And this is in the subdivision ordinance, I believe.
Maybe it's,
So,
this page here, that needs to be an alliance. Let me just.
page 3,
Well, we had that, page 34. Go to page 34.
this is just talking about a signature. This is not talking about actual determination of the adjustment.
Yeah. Well, I'm just going to show you where we had that comment. We get to page 34. Okay, because that comment was on. Seems like that's the wrong document there.
You're not talking about the land use authority chart?
Well,
That should be easy to fix.
yeah, but I could show you the hard copy. We can do that. Here, take these and go to page 34 in that. Is that the other two? Did I remember? Okay, so go to page 34.
This is just. We're just after, so go back.
Okay, maybe 33. So on 11.5.2, lot line adjustment C, and then there's this comment here that we made, that the PLUC agreed that, chapter 3 and 85-3 will need to be amended.
That's the land use authority chart,
Yeah,
not just the chart, but.
But,
That shouldn't be hard to.
yeah,
But,
So that needs.
but then I don't know, maybe not really talking about it.
well, my the thing that I'm reading out of the new subdivision ordinance under 11.5.2. If, quote, if the adjustment is approved, the planning commission shall sign the record of survey map and accompanying meets and bounds description, and the petitioner shall record the document in the county recorder's office.
So maybe
Which-
that means that the land use, the planning commission has to be named as the land use authority for that.
For that particular.
And it needs to just be added to
Yeah, it might
the
need to be,
list on page 2. I mean, I wasn't sure what,
yeah, that might be a conflict.
and at the top of that page 3, land use application, there is subdivision approval, planning and land use commission.
So would we add it under 3.1.3, just a little blurb saying, they act as the land use, the planning and land use commission shall act as the land use authority, and then further down in that paragraph where it's still referencing it, add, signing and recording of survey map and accompanying meets and bounds description
Well,
during its subdivision, or something to that effect.
I think
but of that stapled item, as you look at page 3. The subdivision approval is already there.
Well, that is the land use authority of the town council.
Oh, well, maybe that's what needs to be changed then.
I recall it was something along those
If the
lines.
adjustment is approved, the planning commissions shall sign the record. So that makes the planning commission the land use authority.
Only
So-
for 1 and 2 family subdivisions. All other subdivisions are still the same as they were. So I think just adding one that's just for the 1 and 2 family subdivisions. With the land use authority being the planning commission.
So we
I
do
agree
need-
with that, yes, that's
Yeah,
what I'm seeing.
This isn't a lot line item.
well, this is where this wording is underlined, just.
Mm-hmm.
Which is just. Good.
Okay, yeah, this is just referring to lot line adjustments, so maybe that's another part of,
Hmm.
that could be another part of 85-3. Just again, I have 85-3 here. Does lot line adjustment have its own section? Colleen?
It's, yeah, looking in chapter 3, I always start with the chart, even though that's not definitive, it even says it's not definitive. But then it helps you find it in the body of the text.
5.6.
If you go to the chart,
Oh, okay.
it's chapter 3.
yeah, 5.6 is approval required for lot division, but you're saying it might be in the land use authority table already?
I'm pretty sure lot line adjustments are in the table.
Well,
But I'll go to, when you guys look.
But a lot line adjustment is different from a subdivision.
Usually either has to do with,
Oh, yeah, this is your business.
like, on Chris Coffey's lot and the lot next to it.
Yeah.
The house was too close to the lot line. So they took an
Whoa,
equal
there
piece
you
of
go.
here and an equal piece there. And it just, all it requires is a survey
So
that you record.
this is the chart, and right there it says the chart isn't definitive, look in the body, but at least this gives you a good outline of where to look. And I'm pretty sure lot line adjustments are in there somewhere.
Okay, we'll look, but But on that first line, is that still applicable? Is the PLUC still advising the land use authority, which is the town council?
That's,
So,
that's
does
what
that
I
need to
seem
be
to
changed?
remember needed adjusting because of the new ordinance.
See, that's a little confusing to me, because this is saying if the adjustment is approved, which doesn't necessarily include the planning commission doing the approval, which would then be the case if you change the land use authority for subdivision approval to the PLUC. It's, all this is saying is if the adjustment is approved, the PLUC needs to sign and record, just sign the record,
What adjustment are you talking about?
the lot line adjustment.
That's different from subdivision authority. Which is,
Well, right, I mean, there's
Well,
really two
that's-
different questions. Is that line on subdivision ordinance at the very top there, is that still applicable? And then the other one is the item I brought up, lot line adjustment. So there's kind of two
two different
questions.
things. And right
Oh,
now,
C 44. Well, both these comments refer to item C, don't they?
Yes, yeah, see, comments 44 and 45 both refer to that.
Okay.
Just,
To me, this is not saying that we are doing any kind of determining or anything else like that. We are just signing the record. And shifting the planning and land use commission to be the land use authority for the whole process.
mhm.
Just to match a requirement for us to sign something does not seem very logical to
Okay.
me.
Well, here's 85-3 section for approval required for lot division.
that's splitting one lot. I don't think that's the same as a subdivision.
Well, it may not even be the
Kinda.
same for a lot line adjustment either.
This is for splitting one big lot into two. It says an existing
for lot
platted lot.
division.
I think you're still talking about the first line in the LUA chart.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so. Greenhorn here. Is the question whether it should be the planning commission signing it, or is it a question of whether the town council should be signing it? Is that what we're talking about here?
Mhm.
I,
Well,
No, I
No.
don't think so.
because the what's his name that rewrote the ordinance for us?
And
Changed it so that
we would comply with Utah state code. If it
exactly,
changes the-
so we can't change that. I seem to remember in Hanson's thing, there were some charts there that showed essentially land use authority type stuff for all the
Mhm.
stuff, and we just probably need to look at that in the new ordinance and make sure 85-3 is
Yeah.
aligned with it.
Mhm. So you would have that on those two packets that Jamie and Dorje have. And then you could,
So, yeah, we're not changing, the new ordinance, I forget what the exact name of the new subdivision ordinance is. But it's just signing the record,
mhm,
as far as I can tell.
I thought there was more to it than.
mhm. Well,
So
maybe,
if this is what we need to worry about, then I would say we just leave pretty much all of it as is and maybe staple on the, like this exact instance onto 85-3. Cause I don't really see a conflict.
I don't either. When I asked the question I asked, I'm trying to figure out what is the conflict.
it seems like I recollect that the purpose that the state had was to remove, not make these approvals political. So it may be that
Right.
the town council is not supposed to be the land use authority.
That's right.
So can you find their land use authority chart there?
Oh, it
No,
might
there's a
be-
lot of paper here.
I
it
know.
might be in this one.
And compare it to what 85-3 says.
Same thing I just said. the council is the land use authority on all subdivisions except for the 1 and 2 family subdivisions, which is what this subdivision ordinance changed.
Okay.
Okay, so do we need to have two separate line items there?
I think so. Yeah.
What is your recommendation?
I think you just add another line item that specifies the 1 and 2 family subdivisions. Just kind of follow the table that's in the new subdivision ordinance. And make sure it matches that.
Well, the table isn't necessarily the deciding factor, so we would need to add this into designation of land use authority 3.1 in chapter 3 of 85-3,
Right.
under 313.
Yeah, you could just add another blip that specifies and refers to the subdivision ordinance.
Okay, yeah, I'm just trying to figure out the exact language so I can note it down. So this is just a series of comma separated things. So at the very end of 313, I would remove the or before non-routine requests for decommissioning contracts. Change the period to a comma and then put the or after that and do 1 to 2 families subdivisions. Would that be the term?
Get the language from the new ordinance.
Name of it. Okay, but wait, I can go back. Now you're,
3.
Is it possible to put that on the screen?
yeah. Let me see if it's possible to get us out of the way. Okay, so 3.13 there. In which paragraph were you in there, Dorsey? The second?
3.13, Planning and Land Use Commission.
Second paragraph.
Second paragraph. No. I need to have you repeat that, so.
Yeah, let me make sure I'm getting the language correct. So what this would be is before the very last little blurb, the non-routine request for decommissioning contracts, remove the or, and then at the very end of that paragraph, change the period to a comma.
Right,
Put or after that, and then, do applications for 1 to 2 family subdivisions. And I think that would cover it.
so do you need to do something for the town council to make them
We may need to,
or,
let's see, what does this say?
We might need to remove the town council's authority for that particular thing.
okay, when it's already in there, subdivision approval.
And any other land use decision not specifically assigned to other land use authority.
Well,
So that should technically cover it.
but does there need to be a qualifier on line 2 of 3.1.4? Where it says town council, the land use authority for blah, blah, blah.
I mean, you could change,
The first thing is subdivision approval.
you could change that to the language that's used over here is non 1 to 2 family subdivision.
Okay.
And that would shift the PLUC to being the recommending one.
Mhm. Now those comments got so far removed from what they were addressing.
Or had no reference to what they were actually
Yeah.
had a problem with.
And then add one for the clerk.
And so,
And then under the 3.14, line 2, let's add non 1 to 2 family before subdivision approval.
what, non 1 to 2 family? Oh, before.
Yeah, so it would read,
Yeah,
the town council shall act as the land use authority to review and act upon land use applications related to the following, semicolon. Non 1 to 2 family subdivision approval. And et cetera.
okay.
Can I make a suggestion, Georgia?
Yep.
That might be a little confusing to somebody in the future. What if you instead said, subdivision approval, parenthesis, except 1 to 2 family subdivision? If you put non in front.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can see
no,
what-
that
Okay.
I like that. So put that just after subdivision approval, is what you're saying?
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
in parentheses, except 1 to 2 family subdivision.
I don't know whether there's any language in the subdivision ordinance that for those non 1 to 2 family.
There is some stuff, I think.
Didn't we make our new ordinance only for 1 and 2 family? That was an option they gave us.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be saying that there were other types. And you guys have the full ordinance there.
Yeah, there's other stuff in there. It's just, it's primarily designed around keeping it 1 or 2 family.
So then on page 18 of that article, when we were just looking at, if you turn, there's an actual table there.
Yeah.
And we would need to have 2 items there, I guess, for,
Yes, we would need to add a second line item. We could do the first one as subdivision approval and use the parentheses except, except 1 to 2 family homes. And then add a second line item underneath that states, 1 to 2 family subdivision approval, and that would be a non-applicable advised LUA, and the land use authority would be the PLUC.
the appeal authority.
And the appeal authority would be, the
Yeah,
appeal
yeah.
authority,
The
yeah,
appeal authority is the town council on that.
yeah.
I have the table pulled up on my desktop.
Okay. County council. All right. Now, just for terminology, Rosa, you were saying the first item would be subdivision approval in parentheses, except for 1 to 2 family. Is it family homes or family subdivisions?
One that you can use. Yeah. 1 to 2 family subdivision, that's what they call
Very good for sorting that out.
think that should cover most of the changes we need to do in chapter 3. Is there anything else we need to cover to make it compliant?
The next, couple of papers there have to do with, slopes. That first page, page 42 comes out of the subdivision ordinance, which you could find in your packets there. It may not be page 42, but it's towards the end of the packet.
Hmm.
And it is actually called,
J. Item J,
yeah, for slopes.
under. Chapters under. Actual chapter is 11.6.6. Design resource impact and conservation standards. You need it? Where's the-
It has been sloped, or? Yeah, I'm looking at it.
Comment C53, the C refers to the town council, correct?
Where are you? Oh.
I'm looking at-
Ordinance 5.7.
Comment.
The comment under item 6 under J.
And what was your question?
The comments labeled C before the number are from council, or is that from somebody else?
You mean like C53?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not sure who that was, from. It wasn't ever clear how all of those comments were identified.
Go ahead, Colleen.
It's hard to see on the printout here, but I think comment C53 is just pointing at number 6, right to the left of it, that says development in areas predetermined to be geologic hazard zone will not be allowed. That does conflict with 85-3. We just require everybody to sign the geologic hazards release, because a whole bunch of
Well, I mean, if you do the geologic hazard zone, nobody on that side is gonna be.
right. Well, I think that's what this meant. It conflicts with 85-3, so you might want to just remove that number 6. Although
Okay,
that's
this would be a change to the subdivision ordinance. right?
yeah, and this comment maybe should have applied back when you guys were hammering out the new ordinance.
Well, where is that covered in 85-3?
It's not,
Geologic hazards, there's a section there, I think.
it's-
I think.
No, I don't know if I have the rest of 85-3 in front of me.
there is, it's way back in chapter 8 or 9, I bet. It's not something I ever deal with.
Do you have 85-3 up on here right now?
We can bring up the full ordinance here.
Yeah, do a search on the word, geologic. You need to click close on that generative summary box. And just search for either hazard or geologic.
Okay.
Is that the only hit?
Under definitions,
No, that's
Not
not
let's
relevant.
see,
Keep going.
that there was just 3 of 3.
This is-
So I guess that the ordinance doesn't say. Doesn't prevent.
That first hit, what exactly did that say?
It was just, I'll go back to it. That was the first hit.
It was in chapter 1.
Yeah.
And the geologic hazard zone, we don't really have
We have,
3 zones.
we
don't
do have those maps. We have geologic hazard maps.
We have maps, but we don't have a quote unquote zone that has anything to do with anything.
Well, if we already if we have actual geologic hazard zones where it's not allowed to build, then that would cover this, correct?
No, we have a geologic hazard map that shows a whole bunch of areas that are defined as geologically hazardous, but we don't forbid building on them. We just make everybody sign a release. So that's interesting. I've never noticed that line before.
Because, I mean, that just said unbuildable one, not that that's.
Said we have one. It didn't say anything about how to deal with it.
Well, somewhere up there was something that said unbuildable, geological hazard zone unbuildable.
In 85-3 or in the subdivision ordinance?
Just a little ways up. Or what, wait, was it up?
Okay.
It was the first hit.
It was the first. hit.
Right there.
Okay.
Yeah.
The town is zoned in 3 zones.
Oh, geologic hazard zone extends to all unbuildable lands. Oh, how
Yeah,
about that?
that's a little weird.
I think that's leftover from maybe a long time ago. Unless it's referring to the cliff, in which case it's not platted anyway.
Well, if we keep this stuff in,
Well, in that case, there's no conflict, because that says
yeah, there shouldn't
unbuildable.
be, there's no conflict, and even this. It may require that these conditions be added to 85-3. Is it better to add them to 85-3 or just provide a reference to this ordinance? Because if something changes in the subdivision ordinance in the future, would we prefer to have 85-3 just reference to it or have the separate?
Geologic hazard references, you mean?
Well, they're talking about slopes and things like this, If you probably don't wanna add that into 85-3, because if you change it in one of them, you need to change it in the other. And there's been many instances of those types of edits getting lost.
Yeah.
So. If we do need to add something to 85-3 for this, I would recommend that we just reference this ordinance. But I also don't really see much reason to. Shuffle it around.
Is there anything in that slope section that, I mean, is everything in there covered by 85-3, 5.7? Do you see any conflicts there? About grading and earth moving and, sloping land? I think maybe Jeff had referenced that, but if one ordinance says sloping of 15% or greater, do you have to have that specific slope in 85-3?
You might need to, we just need to make sure that 85-3 doesn't conflict with it.
It's
This might be more stringent and this, oh god.
Yeah. If the new ordinance only applies to new subdivisions, then at the very most at 85-3, you would just have to say something referring to the new ordinance. If a new subdivision would be approved.
I agree with Colleen, but hey, folks, I am still, my screen is locked up. I'm still looking at sketch plan submission and review, and I'm not seeing the work that you're doing. So that's why I'm not chiming in.
Can anybody else see it?
Do you see it, Jasmine or Marie?
I'm reading it here.
Yeah, the chapter 1 general provisions ordinance 85-3. Yeah,
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 my screen is stuck on the sketch plan submission and review as well. Sorry, I had to take a phone, make a phone call. I'll be right back.
The screen sharing is
I mean, we show that it's still.
You
screen
might need
sharing.
to redo the screen share.
I could stop and start again.
I have a suggestion.
What's that?
Go ahead.
Why don't you assign this figuring that's out as a task to a couple of people? Because I found that trying to do stuff like this in a meeting
Yeah, this is,
untenable a lot of the time.
I just don't see a major conflict with it right now, so I would say we defer it. Cause the other one, that needed to change. That needs to come into compliance, we know that that needs to come into compliance.
The land use authority one.
The land use authority part. So, yeah, anyone would be willing to figure out what exactly the conflict and or what needs to be added or removed from either ordinance regarding item J of the subdivision ordinance under section 11.6 or 11.6.6.
I'd be happy to work with someone on that.
I know my way around 85-3 pretty well, so I'm willing to work on it with somebody if you want.
Okay, so Colleen and Ryan, would you be willing to work on that together?
Yes,
Okay.
and we'll talk space heaters at the same time, right, Colleen?
Pardon?
We'll talk space heaters too.
Oh, sure.
All right, well, I'd like to make a comment or make a suggestion.
Yeah.
It might be worth looking at a description of geologic hazard zone, somebody looking at the map and seeing if there's any information there that, you know, is applicable in making this decision.
It would be nice to sort that out in 85-3, because I don't know if that zone is the same thing as those maps we have.
I know, the maps are.
I don't know if they're referring to the same thing.
Right, so that'd be
I
worth
mean-
knowing.
Yeah, it might be something totally, the geologic hazard zone might be a part of, like I said, you can't build there might be other stipulations on it. There might be like other areas or whatever that are geological hazards, but they're not like unbuildable.
Well, not this official zone that's mentioned right here.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because I know we have there's one on the website, a geologic hazards map that. I mean, covers a lot of platted lots that have houses on.
Yeah, but like if I'm reading this correctly, then like range and grazing, which is most of our lots.
Range and grazing is the undeveloped part of the town.
That's the BLM land,
Yeah.
Utopian lands that are within the town
So
boundaries.
it's a totally separate type of, anyway,
Yeah.
doesn't matter right now. But yeah, if somebody's willing to look into that, that would be awesome. Okay, so do we need a motion to approve this stuff or do we just table it for further discussion?
Just take a look.
Okay,
Motion to table.
We have a motion from Ryan to table the, amendments to ordinance 85-3. Do we have a second?
Janie, second.
All right, revisions, ordinance 85-3 will be tabled until our next meeting.
Roll call vote.
I will now go for a roll call vote. Let's start with Ryan,
Yes,
Marie,
Yeah,
Janie,
Aye.
George, aye. All right, now on to unfinished business, discussion and possible action regarding updates to land use application forms in order to align them with changes in procedures and recent amendments. Are there any new forms? No new forms, we don't even need to table that, and I don't think we need to close the meeting, so we could just, look for a motion to adjourn if we want to.
I, Janie, make a motion to adjourn.
I second.
Yeah, I think we can just do a roll call vote by leaving.
And
Or-
adjourned at,
Adjourned at, 7:35 PM.
And you probably want these back, don't you?
but we can put that in proper recording.